Oh, you damn right. House divided on a Wednesday. I am Chad Hastings. Once again, that guy's here. He is playing hurt. He's playing through the flu. He's here for you, though. It's the Michael Jordan flu game all week long. No poison pizza here. He is fighting through it. We got excitement all around. Doug's excited because there are playoff games in just over 48 hours. Hook 'em horns. I am so ready. A lot of people are ready. We'll get into some portal stuff, football stuff, and anything else we can fit in. And yes, Roger, Ketch is alive, no doubt about it. Mr. Ketchum, it's great to see you again.
Wish I could say the same. The thing is, when people talk about the Jordan flu game, they act like there hasn't been 5,000 other flu games that didn't quite go that way. I feel like I'm having like a Nate Newton flu game.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, it's like when a person in their life dies or somebody's in a terrible accident or something. They like to hold up those ones where it all went right, for Brett Favre right after his dad died or whatever. They don't tell you all those other like hundreds of stories. It's well, his sister was in the hospital. How did he play? Oh God, he was terrible. Oh, he was awful.
I'm not saying I'm not going to be good today. I'm going to give it a go. It's like that when you come in, it's like the word Jordan gets mentioned right out there. It's like, come on, no.
Yeah.
Let's lower the bar.
I know. I'm so excited. There's playoffs to talk about. There's portal to talk about. And, you are the Michael Jordan of Texas football.
It might be that I have the Jack Sigma flu game. And it's like, well, what did he do in that game? Not a goddamn thing. He had the flu. What do you expect from him? He's not Michael Jordan.
That's fair.
There's a lot to get into, though. The portal continues. I will say this. The 48 hours away from playoff football, that put a smile on my face, and not many things have.
Yeah.
I can't wait till Friday. I certainly can't wait till Saturday. It's going to be a great time. 3:00 Saturday, Texas and Clemson will be at the Texas Card House Social. Why don't you put that bad boy up there? And before we start getting nitty gritty with the portal with Eric Singleton and the like, that looks pretty. A lot of orange.
A lot of orange. 2 shades of orange, man. Pick your favorite shade of orange and come join us this week. Beer specials start at 2:00. Remember, just find me and scream out Stella, and I'll hand you a $1 bill, courtesy of one of our fans who wants 20 people to drink on him. So there you go. Big cheddar. Thank you for that.
Somehow I have less energy today than I did yesterday. There's no Stellas for me today. No. So that's either a great thing or it is what it is. Look at that bad beet bacon. It is not made out of beets, by the way. Nope. It is made out of pork.
It is pure bacon. And also, I got the plan together, Ketch. I'm a big nerd about the screens and stuff. I got it figured out. We're going to have the college games on. We're going to have whatever NFL game is on at the time. We'll have that on 2 screens. And we're going to put the high school championship games up and the FCS semifinals up. It'll all be on at the same time at TCH Social Austin. So everybody come join us. We're going to have a great time. Quick reminder too, for you poker fans, remember Hijack Poker is available right now. Go to hijackpoker.com, put that code in OB20. It'll get you $20 free to play. This is anywhere in the state of Texas. For all of you that are in Texas, and as you see, you can cash out at one of their 6 TCH locations. So
it's a badass game, man. It is. It provides the fix that you sometimes need when you want to get into a card game for cash, or a tournament for that matter. But you don't want to leave the house to do it. Boom, there you go.
There it is. There it is. All right, Ketch, as we start today, and we invite everybody to jump in the chat. If you want to throw us a super chat, it will go right to the top of the list. Portal continues, Ketch. Would you like to start with? I feel bad. Yesterday, I didn't give you a Portal Combat intro. If that would make you feel better today, I can give you a Portal Combat intro.
I want the intro.
Holiday, country or metal? Your choice.
I've already said until we're done with Christmas, holiday.
All right. Merry Portal Christmas. All right. It does kind of make me smile. Kind of puts me in a good mood.
Every father knows best.
It really is. That's nice Christmas music. That is. Yeah.
Do you know what I've been doing in the time that I've been sick? Because it goes all the way back to Friday night. So we're day 5.
Yeah.
In addition to watching some movies, and kids, if you missed my review of the Substance yesterday, don't do that.
Yeah.
I watched one night. I couldn't sleep, and I just decided I want to watch some old Dennis the Menace. So I watched about 6 episodes, the first 6 episodes of Dennis the Menace, and now my Amazon, like everything's 50s TV shows. Like they've now decided, oh, yeah, you're a Dennis the Menace, Mark.
You fed the algorithm.
And Leave It to Beaver and Harriet, and it just Ozzy and Harriet, and it's just one after another. And the thing is, I might actually just start knocking out a bunch of 50s TV shows. Like, it all sounds good.
Did they hit you with a little Mr. Ed?
No, but I do. I like that show when I was a kid, and now I'm okay without it.
Let's go. Yeah, you got to get it in there. Catch, I think this super chat is a great place for us to start. So let's thank Juan, first off, for the $19.99. Thank you, Juan. But he starts with this. Catch or Chad, why is Texas not being Texas when it comes to the portal? Are they going after the Branch brothers? Why is Texas not being like LSU or Tech took Texas's cornbread, interested garden to Hunter? Okay, I'm lost. Hunter is a reference to UCF. I'm not sure about the garden. I may be missing that name, but anyway, Catch, why Texas? This is kind of an overall what I know we wanted to get into today and what you wanted to talk about. There've got to be Texas fans out there with this feeling from Juan. Like, what's going on? Why are my Longhorns not being my Longhorns?
You know, Chad and I were on the phone earlier. And I said, Chad, one of the things I think we're doing a better job than probably any show anywhere in the country is explaining to people what's happening right now in college football. And then Juan sends a super chat that makes me feel like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about anymore. Juan, why is Texas not being Texas? Well, what does that mean to you? Because there's a playoff game on Saturday, and Texas has the highest NIL spend on a roster of any team in the country. $22+ million the last I saw. So, like, why isn't Texas being Texas? You do realize there are still some games being played before the college football season is over with. And the ones that Texas are in, they bought their way into it. That's why Texas is right. The Steve Sarkisian experiment has been able to hit the fast forward button because Texas is being Texas. Now, this portal window has got a number of things going on and a number of dynamics in play that I think everybody needs to understand the nuance involved. Number one, the talent pool sucks. This is not as good of a talent pool as we've seen in previous years. I'll give you an example. Like Eric Singleton, that dude's not better than Isaiah Bond, but that's been about as good as it gets. Now, Zachariah Branch is in the portal, and we'll talk about him in a second. I think it's important to remember that there are still 12 playoff teams that I think you could see. Matter of fact, I was given a name today of a player that Texas will be really interested in that could hit the portal once a certain team is eliminated from the playoffs or wins the whole thing. At some point, the team season will end, and we'll see more exoduses occur. But the talent pulls down. And so it's put Texas into a position of go beat Texas with mediocre talent because we're Texas and we spend a bunch of money on talent that's not as good as the talent that we have on campus. This stuff's complicated for Texas now. What you're seeing across the country is that teams that haven't really spent in NIL, and I'm not talking about 5 teams, I'm talking about dozens. Think about how many Power 4 teams are there, Chad?
So you're at around, I'm just going to guess 60.
Yeah, that's about right.
It's about that number. Used to be around 65. Some of them moves. I'd say it's around 60 right now.
Prior to this moment in time, there might have been about 15 of that 60 that were really NIL powerhouses. And I use that loosely because some would point to Texas and say, well, they're a powerhouse, and you wouldn't necessarily point to a Louisville and put them on the same level of Texas. But some schools have been more of a power than others. But now there are rules being put into place where schools are able to assume a certain amount of money. In fact, I thought it was really interesting. Texas Tech's AD yesterday provided a breakdown of how they're going to distribute their $20+ million. Did you see that, Chad?
No.
I meant to send it to you in my flu brain. Forgot.
No problem.
I will look for it in a moment. When you're doing like an ad at some point during the show, I'll try to find that tweet because it was really interesting. But roughly 15 of that 20 million for Texas Tech was going to be dedicated to football. Now, that's not NIL money like from a collective. That's what the school will be spending to fund its football team from NIL dollars, in addition to whatever money they can also get from collectives like the Texas One Fund. A school like Texas Tech, there's no way they were spending more than $10 million in NIL last year. In fact, I would put it at roughly half that. Well, now they're flush with cash. We talk about this on every show, but it's not just Texas Tech. It's schools all over the country. It's instead of 15 of the 60, now it's 60 of the 60 have money to spend. Now there's a number of ways to spend the money. You can use it to retain your roster. You can use it to build your roster. You can use it to do both. Texas is in a unique situation where it has an incredibly expensive roster, and spending wildly or loosely in a watered down market is only going to prove to be problematic when it comes to keeping your own players. It's why the recruitment of Eric Singleton was always a bit of a mystery for me, that he visits Texas yesterday. The money that it sounds like he's going to eventually get is what we had been hearing. It's going to be 1.5-ish, maybe doesn't quite climb to the $2 million. It sounds like he's going to go to Auburn. You know, to try to explain the Singleton situation with Texas, I once went on this date with a woman who had once been up for Miss Oklahoma. It was a nice date, like on paper. She was lovely. I took her to Sullivan's. This was like 20 years ago. I took her to Sullivan's Steakhouse. We ate lobster. We had a bottle of wine. Like, it was, in terms of like getting my Mac Daddy catch on, I was hitting all the right notes. But about an hour in, it was like, we like each other okay. But yeah, we're probably not going to go out on a date again, even though we're having a good time. Like, this just isn't a fit. Like, you do this Orange Bloods thing. And as it turns out, I was up for Miss Oklahoma, and I don't like Texas football, but you're okay. And when it was over with, like, we just didn't talk again ever. Like, it was a big spend on the date, had a good time, never talk to her again. I kind of think that's what happened with Texas and Singleton. I think he came in. I think they had a good time. I don't think there's any hard feelings, but I don't think the mesh was right. And I think deep down Texas was thinking, oh man, if we do land this guy, will it potentially cause problems for us once our season is over and we really need to lock down our top players? Maybe. So Singleton's almost certainly not going to end up at Texas. Did anything happen? No. But it might be that there are schools that need him a little worse, that are willing to pay a little bit more money. And I think Texas is juggling what it means to have one of the best rosters in college football. How do you improve that? And I don't feel like that they've seen a lot in the portal that's made them go, gotta have it. Now, I was told today, they fully expect to sign a couple of more interior defensive linemen. I don't think they think all those guys are going to be Jags. So there's still a little bit of stay tuned to all of this. Keep in mind, Zachariah Branch entered yesterday. That alone felt like a shot of B12 in the arm. It was like, oh, okay, now we're talking. This is a guy that might be a first-round draft pick in time. I think Texas is going to pick its spots. They're going to get a couple of interior defensive linemen. I think they absolutely know that that's where their biggest needs are. I think they'll continue to look for talent that they feel like can improve the roster going into next season. But they're not going to spend money, and they're not going to go get guys just to go get guys, because there's a cause and effect to everything. And meanwhile, you're looking at teams across the country that just there's a lot of money. This is what it would look like in NFL free agency if nobody was like, a new TV deal goes in and it's like the salary cap jumps up 50 million and nobody's near the cap. What happens? Teams spend money. And I think that that's what we're seeing right now in college football. You're seeing the Texas Techs of the world spend money. They've got it. They weren't spending it a year ago, but now their AD has said they're going to allocate $15 million to football, specifically out of the 20 that the school will be spending on NIL. 15 of that's going to go to football. That's astronomically higher than what they've already been spending. Well, now they got to spend it. So it probably means they're going to overspend on some guys, just like we see in the NFL. And the Longhorns are sitting back and they're going to pick their spots. And you know who else is doing the exact same thing? Georgia. Do you know why? Georgia's got a whole bunch of money. Have you seen Ohio State go crazy in NIL? No. You know why? Because they already got like a $20+ million roster. And the same thing that I think applies to Texas applies. The first school that was mentioned for Singleton was Georgia. Do you know who the first school that have its name taken out of the Singleton sweepstakes was? Georgia. Mm-hmm. Because all of the richest schools, the schools that have up until now have spent the most amount of money, they're looking at what's happening in the portal right now with a little bit of the side eye, because a lot of money is being spent, and a lot of it is being spent on really mediocre talent. Texas is waiting to see if the talent gets better. And look, if that happens, if better players come in, you'll almost certainly see Texas beat Texas. But I think right now it's a very underwhelming. Look, man, I wish I could tell you that it'd be fun to have some sexy ass names in the portal to talk about. And in reality, it's just not been that kind of portal yet. Yeah. Because I think a lot of the teams have used their money to keep their own guys.
Yeah, and we'll get to Branch here because that, like you said, that may be the first big shiny name. Juan adds another $9.99. Thank you, Juan. Says, I guess they wanted Justice Terry and they got him, and that's why I guess they really didn't want Hunter or Singleton. Sorry, I meant that in the last super chat in regards to Hunter. So real quick, Hunter would be Lee Hunter, the UCF guy we had talked about, and he ends up at Tech. correct?
Yeah, and
You just mentioned kind of Tech and the But
I'll be honest, for what Hunter went for, I think Texas feels like they'll hold out and wait a little bit. You know what I'll point to? This time last year, the wide receiver market in the portal was crazy. Remember, Juice Wells went somewhere, and who was the guy that went to Oklahoma? He was hurt most of the years.
Burks.
Deion Burks.
Yeah,
Burks was in the portal.
Who is coming back to OU? There is a receiver that says he's coming back to OU. It's Deion Burks. It's exciting.
Right on, OU. Glad you could keep somebody.
I know who to tell the defense to cover. That guy.
But last year, this is probably the best example I can give. Everybody was wondering what Texas was waiting on. And it was like, Juice Wells is in the portal and Deion Burks is in the portal, and Texas's name kept coming up with these wide receivers, but none of these guys were visiting Texas. Didn't feel like Texas was pushing the envelope on any of them. And what was I reporting last year? I was like, man, Texas is holding out for some big names. And they've got intel behind the scenes that there are names that could still and might enter the portal, and they would rather wait on those guys. Now, there's danger in that because one of the names they were waiting on last year was Isaiah Bond. But Bond at the last second decided, I'm not going to enter the portal. So Texas, for just a moment, looked like they were about to get burned for their patience. Also, Barry and Brown, another guy that people for 2 years were waiting to enter the portal, who, oh, by the way, finally entered the portal and is now at LSU. It looked like Texas's patience was going to become a problem, and then they caught a lucky break. Nick Saban retired. Isaiah Bond then went into the portal, and then Texas went out and got the game changer that they wanted to get, and they would not have changed a thing. They would not have gotten Deion Burks. They wouldn't have wanted Juice Wells. There wasn't a player that was available last year at wide receiver that they would have preferred over Isaiah Bond. And the way it worked out for them. They also added Matthew Golden. And then if you'll remember, they added Silas Bolden late. But it looked early on like, where's all the activity? Texas is going to get themselves a couple of defensive tackles. My guess is they'll still go out and get a big time addition before it's all said and done. But this is it's like that. There's a little bit of like, maybe you need to let the dust clear a little bit. And I just think that's where Texas is right now. I would tell everybody not to panic. I would tell everybody you need to understand what's happening. For the first time since NIL started, programs like Texas Tech have millions to spend. And if you're Texas and you think that a guy is a $500,000 player, but other schools are willing to offer $1 million plus, do you offer the $1 million plus? Maybe. But what does that then do to the rest of your roster? I was joking with a source earlier today. You guys have just been too damn good at talent acquisition. You guys are in this position where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because if you were to go out and spend money, $1 million on Lee Hunter, do you know how many guys on the Texas roster right now are better than Lee Hunter? Do you know how many guys on this Texas roster are better than Lee Hunter and have eyeballs and ears? All of them. Texas doesn't, just so you know, Texas doesn't have one player on the team that lacks eyes or ears. Would be either kind of cool or weird if they did. But no, they all have eyes. They all have ears. And they might have 20 guys better than Lee Hunter. None of them are, most of them up until now are not making $1 million. The first time you give a guy like Lee Hunter $1 million, everybody on the team is going to want $1 million. And suddenly Your $22 million roster for this season is $45 million next year. Like, Texas is in a little bit of a rock and a hard place, but it's a great place to be. Oh, we've got so much talent. We just can't go out and get this mediocre talent. It's a great problem to have. But it does, I think, makes fans restless because, look, Chad and I are Cowboy fans. Deep down, we want the Cowboys to go spend some crazy shit every year. Come on, Jerry. Look, we got mad at Jerry this year because he wouldn't go out and get a running back. Now, we were probably more right than we were wrong, but we'd have spent whatever it took to get Derrick Henry. The Cowboys weren't going to do it. There's guys in the portal right now that I'm sure Texas fans wish just go do it. Go beat Texas. And it's like, okay, well, go beat Texas, but don't you want Texas to be responsible? And I think that that's what Texas is trying to do. They're trying to be Texas, but they realize that there are consequences for everything they do in the portal. And right now, they've not seen a player that would make them want to potentially change the entire operation in terms of its impact. I think it really makes them getting Justice Terry so critical because it feels like they spent whatever they spent on Terry and we're getting good value on their dollar. Mm-hmm. I don't know that there's a lot of value on the dollar right now in the portal. And at least for the moment, that's not a Texas problem. If maybe this time next year, Texas Tech has spent all their money from this past year. They don't have as much and they'll feel like, oh, we should have invested a little more wisely. All of this is a little more complicated than why isn't Texas just going out and spending a bunch of money? Because they lead college football in spending money. And at some point, the next time, they didn't get Justice Terry because he was free. So they didn't sign the recruiting class that they just signed because they were able to put those kids away on layaway. It's just, it's a little bit of a nuanced conversation.
Oscar, I see your super chat. We will get to that. We thank almost 800 of you in that Specs chat already. Also want to thank some of our great partners. And you know what? In terms of talking about NIL, thinking big, let's think big with AV Consultations. How big is your biggest screen? How big is your best screen? Does it need to be bigger? Should it be bigger? Can it be bigger? Do you want it to be bigger? This is a place that can do it. AV Consultations, 255-8678. If you've got, your situation. If you've got that 52 and you've always thought about a 60, if you got a 65, but you've thought about a 75, if you've got a 75 and your brother just rubbed an 80-inch television in your face, then maybe you need to call AV Consultations, 255-8678, or go to avconsultations.com. Make it your Christmas gift to yourself. Get that big badass screen you've always wanted so all the games look even better. AV Consultations. Rolling through a house divided. Jeff Ketchum still fighting through the flu, but he's a little more of himself today. We're talking about portal and all the stuff that's going on there. This one came in just a minute ago from Oscar, $4.99. Why is Ole Miss always at the top in the portal? It hasn't exactly got them where they thought it would. They beat Georgia, but still were a 3-ish loss team. Oscar, when you typed they beat Georgia, you realize that was a big deal, right? I think Lane Kiffin would tell me it did get him kind of where he wanted to go. Nolan, Human Milan, the other guys they acquired. Ketch was just talking about Wells. I think that's where Wells ended up, if I'm not mistaken. No, not Wells. That was the switch, right? With wasn't it Wells? Yes, Junkins ended up in Ohio State, and then Wells ended up, I think, at Ole Miss. That was a pretty damn good team, Ketch. I think Lane Kiffin would tell me maybe he didn't get every bit of his money's worth, but that's the type of team they turned into because of the portal.
Well, they mattered, right? Yeah. Now, I also think it's why is Ole Miss always at the top in the portal? They weren't at the top of the portal. Near the top, sure. They spent a lot of money, but Texas and Ohio State had the two highest portal spends of any two teams in the country. I swear it needs to sink in for some of you. And I don't mean you, Oscar, but Texas is where they are because they spend a lot of money in NIL. And you know what? They haven't had the luxury of having the schools subsidize any of it.
Yeah.
What's different now is that the schools are able to foot the bill, truly. Now, let's say you're Texas Tech and your school is $15 million and you spend 20, you're going to need your collective to pick it up. Yep. You'll need your collective to cover that extra 5. But, this year is a different deal. I also think Ole Miss is the poster boy, Chad, for moving forward. When you miss the playoffs, this is how they'll talk about you. Because that was a good Ole Miss team. They did beat Georgia. And it's like, hell, it hasn't exactly got them where they thought it would. Nope. They missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because they lost one too many games. And I tell you what, if it keeps happening, Lane Kiffin will lose his job.
Yeah, they had probably 2 that we would call inexcusable, and they could have lost one of them and been in the playoff. They lost them both. They lost to Kentucky and Florida.
And if you do that, we're going to start. Look, in 5 years from now, we'll talk about coaches' resumes like this. He's gone to the playoff 4 out of 5 years, made it to the quarterfinals in 3 years, made it to a final. You'll start talking about the playoffs the way we talk about it in college basketball. And why did Shaka Smart get fired from Texas? Good regular season coach. Hey, they won. He got fired after winning the Big 12 conference tournament. Why? Because success is determined by how you do in the tournament. But in football, you have to get in the tournament. And right now, it's still kind of an exclusive deal. So all of the schools that aren't in right now are mostly judged as failures. And Ole Miss is the poster boy. That was a really good football team. If we were doing a legitimate top 10 ranking of, forget about records, who do we just think at their best, at their peak, are the top 10 teams in college football? I think Ole Miss is in that conversation, certainly.
Absolutely. Well, think about the bracket right now, Catch. How many teams in the bracket would you pick Ole Miss to beat?
Well, am I getting the A+ Ole Miss?
Yeah.
Or am I getting the wonky C- Lane Kiffin?
Right.
Turd in the punch bowl team?
Right. If they show up and play their best, I'd pick them to beat half of these 12 teams.
Easily.
Yeah, for sure.
And so what I would say, Oscar, is that NIL is working for them. Ole Miss, we're literally talking about Ole Miss. When the hell did we ever do that 10 years ago? Only when I used the word despondent in a tweet. So, I would contend that it's doing more good than harm for a school like Ole Miss. They just haven't crossed the threshold they want to cross.
Yeah. All right. So Oscar back in $4.99 with Super Chat. I'm saying, why not try and use that money to be better in actual recruiting? Yeah, they got better, but they still missed the playoff because
not everybody can recruit. Not everybody can do what Texas and Georgia and Alabama and USC. Not everybody can do that. Ole Miss can't do that. What Ole Miss wisely decided was, hey, man, we got to stop banging our head into the wall and trying to convince ourselves that year in and year out, we can put together a top 5 class, because doing it once doesn't matter.
Right. But to Oscar's point, real quick, Catch, the question would be that Hugh Freeze class back in the day, which we all know had some dirtiness to it, but now that dirtiness is allowed. So today, would you tell Lane Kiffin occasionally, every once in a while, every couple years, to go hard on the recruiting side and try it that way? Or would you tell him to do what he's doing and just live in the portal?
Of course they try that hard to do it that way every year. But at Ole Miss, look at who they're competing against for the best kids in the SEC.
Right.
And they've got money too. And so I think that Ole Miss has strategically decided that this is their way, that they can't out because what you're saying is, why won't Ole Miss just go out Alabama? And I think Ole Miss has pretty shrewdly said, you know what? we're never going to truly out Alabama. And we're not going to out Georgia. What we've got to do is pick our spots, recruit as well as we can, and then when it's portal time, put the hammer down. And one of the things you got to consider about Ole Miss is a lot of the money that they would have spent in the portal this year is off the books. Those guys are going pro. They spend over $1 million on Walter Nolan. Well, guess what? Now he's off to the NFL. Guess what happens with that money? It's available. So, every school has a different set of circumstances and a different conversation that's taking place.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of Ole Miss, before we leave that topic, I did see that one of the other Human Meelan brothers is going to end up at Ole Miss in the portal. The one that was at Florida went there last year. The one that was at Nebraska is going to join his brother in Oxford this year. I'm assuming he's going to join them. Maybe the other one's already left again. But
I would just real quick, Chad. I would stress. I just don't get the sense that anybody at Texas is panicking.
Right.
I think their eyes are opened, and maybe it hasn't quite unfolded the way that they might have thought it would, primarily because I think they thought there would be a better selection in the talent pool than this. I mean, let's be honest. Singleton is a nice player. Eric Singleton's a perfectly nice player. That people have been, for the last week, talking about him as if he's one of the best players in college football is preposterous.
Yeah. And again, Catch, I'm going to keep saying it. Name the best player in last year's portal that wasn't the result of a coaching change. You got to go down there.
And I think that it will be interesting to see, are we done with coaching changes?
Well, we would assume there's obviously not a monster like Saban that's about to retire that we know of, but we just haven't had that element of the story. I think we just have to remember there was early A&M stuff because of the timing of Jimbo. Remember, you know how it works. As soon as the coach says he's leaving, a new 30-day window opens.
Yep.
Like that. So you had that with Nolan and Evan Stewart. And then you had, and then you mentioned with Saban, Bond ends up being one of those guys. Anybody that moved from Bama, those guys. Then it went to the Washington, Arizona, and then it was all that stuff. And we just don't have that element of it this year either. Here's an interesting regular chat from Thomas, but I'm wondering if you would agree with this. To just take a look at our rival of Texas. Thomas says, I think it's interesting that the Aggies are having to spend above market value for mediocre talent that can't be sustainable. Is that how you would describe what you see A&M doing right now?
I mean, I don't know the dollars involved in the business that they've done. You take a guy like Micah Hudson. I mean, we'll see. If Micah Hudson's the guy that I thought he was as a recruit, then A&M will get good value on that. But if he's getting close to $1 million and he doesn't pan out, no, then obviously that won't have been a good deal. I think that, I think we're in it's going to take – it's like draft day in the NFL when we give out grades. How can you give out a grade yet? And the portal hasn't closed. I think the elephant in the room is the playoff teams haven't had their seasons end. I'm telling you, I was given a name today of a guy that Texas would have an interest in, that they think there's a good chance that he may be a portal, in the portal, but he's going to play in the playoff game this weekend. So, I think that if at all possible, these kids want to finish out the seasons. Yeah. So what we haven't had yet are Georgia departures or really any true Texas departures. Clemson plays on Saturday. I bet they'll have some guys that enter suddenly. Yeah. It changes the dynamic suddenly of what we think the portal talent pool looks like. But if you take the 12 best teams in college football and give them the ability to mostly what we've seen, the guys that Texas have had enter the portal so far are guys that just weren't going to play in the games.
Yeah.
And I think that that's pretty consistent across the board. If you've seen a guy leave a team that's in the playoffs, it's a guy that wasn't going to play on Saturday or next Saturday or any Saturday. So go ahead and enter the portal, because what difference does it make?
All right, Catch, before we move off of this thing, can you help me with the cactus deal? Am I missing something here? Is this a special thing, like an emoji for the Aggies?
I think that's Texas Tech, the Cactus Aggies.
Oh, the Cactus Aggies. Oh, I'm sorry, Thomas. You were referencing Texas Tech there. My bad.
I'm sorry, Thomas, because I missed the Cactus.
The Cactus Aggies. I'm sorry. I did not catch that reference.
He's got to be talking about Texas Tech, the Cactus Aggies.
So a Tech reference, not an Aggie reference. My bad, Thomas. My bad. That's totally my bad. I missed that one. I thought maybe it was supposed to look like a middle finger, but he didn't want to put a middle finger. I thought maybe that was.
And by the way, on Zachariah Branch, I think Texas will have an interest, but that is a package deal that has a brother involved, and it's complicated. And from what I understand on Zachariah Branch, they put a do not contact label on his recruitment when going into the portal. Yeah. Now, normally that indicates that a guy already knows where he wants to go. That could be the case with Branch. What I was told, what that means is, don't call us, we'll call you.
We will reach out. Yeah, especially if it's the package deal, it's two brothers. So Zachariah obviously is a badass wide receiver, kick returner. The brother's a cornerback, correct?
Yeah.
Zion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is going to be a wild one to watch. And that's the first name for me, Catch, that felt, big time.
I'm with you. I saw what,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a little different.
That one. I'm not against. You know what? Uh-oh. As it turns out, when I have the flu, I have more restraint.
Than
when I don't have the flu.
Did the filter work on that little filter?
It did.
Corey jumped in earlier and said, "Have you guys spoken on the Branch brothers yet?" Corey, thank you for asking. Yes, we have talked about him a little bit, and it was that big name. He is a dynamic. Zachariah is a badass. Zion could be. Catch, Zion could be just okay, and I'll take the package deal because Zachariah is that good. And now let's just see if you're right, and this is not already determined, right? And they put the don't call tag up because they want to control things. Whew, man, let's see whose phone rings in the next few weeks.
But I think the Texas and the Georgias and the Ohio States of the world, I think with Branch, it'll just be complicated because I think you could justify giving Zachariah whatever.
Yeah. And, he may think of the timing. Would you watch the first round? And if you're interested in any of the teams that lose, would you call them right after? Or, you know what I mean? Like, do you just wait till these games are over and then, let's say Texas and Ohio State are on his list and they both win this week.
Well, we haven't seen NFL declarations. So look, first of all, let's say you're Texas and Matthew Golden is open-minded to returning for another year. Would you rather give him money or Singleton? Like if somebody's got to make $1 million at wide receiver next year, would you rather it be the guy that's probably going to finish with 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns for you on a playoff team? Or would you rather it go to Eric Singleton? We don't know what Golden's going to do yet. We still don't know. We think we know what Isaiah Bond's going to do, but he's had such a junky season because of the injuries that he could come back. We haven't seen NFL declarations yet.
Yeah, it's a good point.
That, for a guy like Zachariah Branch, that's leverage all day long. And so, again, someone asked me earlier today, like, what are my thoughts on all of this? And I said, well, my thoughts are, it feels like we're in act 2 of a 7-act play. So everybody needs to just kind of wait and see what happens. And remember this, there will be guys that enter the portal late on purpose because they'll have already had deals reached with programs, and those schools will want them to wait because, it's like, hey, if you come into the portal, we'll give you $1 million. And the guy goes into the portal, but a siren goes off, and suddenly everybody and their brother is calling that kid saying, hey, do you want to take our phone call? Sure, we'll take a phone call. And suddenly the money has changed. So, and that was the case last year. Before, everybody had money. So, I wish I had more clarity to provide today, but there's not clarity today. And I think if you're Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, those types of programs, whenever I do that super blue chip list at the beginning of the year, and it's like, well, why does it matter to be at the top of this list? Why does it matter? Because it means you don't have to be completely desperate at this point of the portal process. Georgia hasn't been desperate. Ohio State hasn't been desperate. And yet I bet the conversations on shows that focus primarily on those schools sound a lot like the one that we're having today. Why is Georgia not going after Eric Singleton? I'm sure if we did like a YouTube search and found some, like our UGA Sports, I bet if we found their YouTube channel, I bet they've had that show. And I bet the conversations had to go a little bit like, well, here's why. We have a bunch of expensive players, and they don't think that guy for that amount of money is right for the program. Welcome to college football in 2024, 2025. These types of decisions have never really had to be made before, and now they do.
Jose, I see your super chat. We will get right to it. We got buy or sell coming up before the end of the show. Also, thanking our great partners around here. Let me go sinus and snoring specialist real quick. Thinking about breathing, feeling better, sleeping better. Nothing more important than breathing, right? Well, this time of year, it can get a little weird. It gets a little hot, gets a little cold. Your allergies are bugging you. Get rid of them for good. I got rid of my allergies for good in 2017. It's one of the many things they can do for you at Sinus and Snoring Specialists. I always say, hey, make it that present to yourself. You might be going through snoring stuff. I was. They said I was 85% blocked in my nasal passages. They showed it to me. They could literally show it to me with a little camera that Dr. Slaughter invented at Sinus and Snoring Specialists. It's the very latest in ear, nose, and throat. Go check them out. 601-0303 or go to sinussnoringent.com. Sinus and Snoring Specialists feel clear, rested, and healthy. Tell them you heard about it on Orange Bloods Live. Texas getting ready for Clemson. Playoff games getting ready to happen. And we're talking a lot of portal stuff today. And Jose had a super chat. Let me mark this other one real quick, Jose, and then I'll get to yours. $4.99 from Jose. Would Texas BMDs be willing to spend as much as they are now with the school footing the current bill? Would this mean that Texas would do $40 million?
Well, first of all, Texas BMDs ain't done shit. It's been mostly a small group of guys. So let's not act like Texas is SMU right now, or even Texas A&M. One of the problems that Texas has had, it's what makes, who knows, maybe one day I'll write the book on this. If Texas wins a national championship this year, a book will need to be written about how it happened, and I'll probably write it. This isn't Texas. Texas has lacked BMD enthusiasm when it comes to NIL. So it's a small group of people, although the Texas One Fund does great work, but it can't raise all of the money that's been needed to pony up what this team has cost to put on the field. There's a small handful of guys. They've carried so much weight, not just this year, but in the last few years. It was unsustainable. So the school now being able to foot a large piece of the bill means that these guys can woo-saw it out a little bit. But yeah, look, Texas is going to spend more than $20 million. And my guess is it wouldn't shock me if that number ends up being close to $40 million. And if it's not, it won't take long to get there. So, but what Texas does, Texas still needs people to give to the Texas One Fund, and they need some of their BMDs, Jose, to act like SMU's BMDs because other schools have more. And it's crazy to think, you know what the Texas BMDs are doing? They're like, this is badass. Love winning. Glad I'm not having to foot the bill. You know what it reminds me of, Chad?
Damn.
I was such a cheap shit when I was in high school. I'll never forget. We had a journalism at McCallum. We did a journalism breakfast at the Omelet Tree. And so it was like 20 people at the Omelet Tree. Did you ever go to the Omelet Tree back in the day?
No, never been.
Lovely breakfast place.
Okay.
The bill comes. Everybody's paying their bill. I was the money collector.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember let's say the bill was $100 and there's like $120 with the tip. And I was like, oh, cool. Guess I don't need to put any in.
Damn. You thought money collector was a job at the table.
If you want to know, hey, I was a little bit of a scam artist as a teenager. And the best way to not get accused of not putting in is to be the money collector.
Yeah.
Everybody assumes that the money collector, in addition to collecting, has participated.
Always pays. Money collector, always.
I'll never forget not paying a dime that day. But as the collector, I was kind of the hero. It's like, Jeff got it taken care of.
Here's another weird analogy, Catch, but I think it's one you'll know because you've been one of these guys. You've been both of these guys that I'm going to mention. But the old saying is, you got to decide, do you want to be the guy that owns the boat or the guy that knows the guy that owns the boat? Are you telling me that like SMU is the guy that owns the boat, but Texas BMDs just want to be on the boat, but they want to be able to walk off the boat and go, yep, didn't pay for any of that.
Bingo. Texas has been begging their affluent donors to get involved, like heavily involved. And the overall consensus, if I'm not mistaken, Texas had this big retreat. I want to say in Aspen, and Sark was there, Del Conte was there, Hartzell was there. They brought in all the heavy hitters, and they invited the most affluent of the affluent. And they said, look, we really need this, and we've got a chance to win a national championship, but this is how if we're going to get there, this is how it's going to happen. And most of those guys are like, I don't like these kids getting money. You know what? These kids can get money, but they ain't getting it from me. And
when am I skiing tomorrow? What time? 2:00.
Exactly.
2:00 on the slopes? Okay.
So look, man, if Texas could ever get everybody as active and involved at the highest levels, they really would be a force to be reckoned with. I think there's about 5 guys that nobody knows their names because they don't want their names known because they're not doing it for the notoriety. They should have goddamn statues out in front of DKR right now.
Yep.
Like they're pulling heavy weight, and fans are just like, hey, everybody's putting in the money. The Texas BMDs, aren't they awesome? Nope, they're not. Texas is great at fundraising for projects. It has sucked in a lot of ways when it comes to raising money for athletes. And the Texas One Fund guys bust their ass just to get in the door to explain to people why it matters. And the general attitude at Texas has been, we don't like this paying players thing. But they love going to the stadium and watching the team win a lot of games. So it's hypocrisy at its finest. No, I don't like these kids getting paid money. But you know what? I sure enjoyed that Georgia game. Even though we didn't win, it was like, boy, I love that. And I wonder if some of this will just take care of itself. That now that everything's out in the open, now that it's pretty clear, hey, man, the the Cactus Aggies are out here throwing around millions and taking away defensive tackles that we would have an interest in, maybe that will be the thing that will get more activity. But I think the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the Texas fan base that all of the big money donors were all on the same page and we're all in rowing the boat together. Nah, man. They've been at the games. They've been pulling a catch at the omelet tree in May of 1994.
Crazy. Let's go to the other side of the line of scrimmage. Catch Kevin with a $4.99 super chat says, any O linemen on the watch, or does Texas think they're okay on that end? I'm assuming Kevin's asking about.
I haven't heard about any offensive linemen. It doesn't mean that a situation couldn't pop up that changes their thinking, but that's defensive tackle still remains the number one priority. The one thing I was told today was like, hey, we will sign a few more defensive tackles. But beyond that, not a lot of promises. And again, because I don't know that they feel like there's anything out there that they should enter a bidding war for.
Yep. Kevin, we thank you for that super chat. That cleans off that round of super chats. Got some buy or sell coming up here in just a second. Also, you know what? Catch just mentioned food and like omelets and stuff.
Do you know that I haven't eaten in 4 days?
You haven't eaten in 4 days? Well, I'm definitely going to make you hungry with a little Hays City. You know you'd love some Hays City store right now.
I'm going to actually.
No?
Just you did? Okay. It'll make me feel nauseous.
I got you. Go look up the thing you were going to look up about the Big 12.
I will do that, yes.
There you go. And I'll tell the folks about Hays City Store. Not only is it an incredible place to go, but as I've shown you, it has gotten a little bit better. This is the Ice House area at Hays City Store. This is exactly where Ketch and I, if you go over to the left where that lovely lady is eating, I think that's where Ketch and I sat last time we were at Hays City Store. But they've added more screens and they've boarded up the back of the Ice House. They put a nice wall back there to help block some wind and stuff, give you a little more, obviously more screens, but a little more ambiance. It looks like they got windows back there as well too. But they still have the Ice House environment where you still have the open sides. You can still get the beautiful shade trees. It's just such a great place to go eat. Go check out Hays City Store. It's that chicken fried steak we've been talking about. It's their incredible appetizers. I haven't mentioned it in a while, but the home run dip appetizer. If you love dip, if you love chips and dip to start your meal, it's just the best I've ever had. The salsa is incredible. The queso is amazing. The guac is awesome. And they have a bean dip that is just this gourmet, you didn't know bean dip could exist like this bean dip. It'll blow your mind. Get on out there to Driftwood. Make sure you have plenty of time because you do not need to be rushing when you are going to Hays City Store. Tell Travis and Tamara that we said, hey, here at Orange Bloods Live. They're one of our great partners. And trust me, they are big-time Longhorn fans. They are ready for Texas and Clemson. They will be rooting on the Longhorns big time this weekend. All right. We got the super chats cleaned off for now. Ketch, I wanted to ask you a quick question. Did you hear what's going on right now with the Penn State SMU game in terms of the portal?
No.
So Rhett Lashley's been griping a little bit about the portal window and the timing of it, like other coaches. He's not the only coach griping about the December window. But how about this? Penn State's backup quarterback has felt compelled to get in the portal, like already, like before they play. He's not going to be involved in the game, and he says he has to make this choice. And so
we saw that with Malik Murphy, right?
Right, exactly. That kind of vibe where he just felt like the timing was such that he had to do it. I do think they're going to need to look at many things moving forward with the playoff, but we've talked. This is one of those things that we've talked about it through the whole time period, but we'll just mention it off to the side. Oh, and the portal opens on December 8th and closes on the 28th. And we knew what that meant, but to see it now all play out and to see a backup quarterback on a playoff team this isn't just a bowl team. I mean, Texas was that last year, right? I mean, that's the same thing in a way, but a playoff team, backup quarterback that feels like he needs to transfer. That's just sad. Like that doesn't need to be happening.
Well, and I can't say that I blame him. I'm watching Malik Murphy having entered the portal after having led Duke to a 9-win season. Mm-hmm. And it feels like the quarterback market's kind of drying up around him. And
Yeah.
early on, it looked like he might go to one school, but then they found their quarterback. So there's a quarterback position more than any other. There really is a game of musical chairs that takes place. You don't want to be a backup quarterback, no less, and then enter the portal after everybody else is done. It's like, hey, I'm here.
It's crazy.
Wait, I thought there was a game of musical chairs taking place.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, they picked up the chairs and went home like a week ago.
Yeah, it's nuts.
So let me give you these numbers, okay? Because as far as I know, this is the only school that. So let me give you the details.
All right, and this is coming directly from Tex AD.
Correct.
Okay.
The first AD to detail the distribution of the 20.5 million revenue share, assuming that the House versus NCAA final approval on April 7th goes through. Mm-hmm. It means that the revenue sharing will begin on July 1st.
Okay.
20.5 million every school is going to have.
Mm-hmm.
Kirby Hocutt, Texas Tech's AD, said that football will get 15.1 million of the 20.5, which is 74% of the revenue. Men's basketball will get 3.6 million, which is 17.5%. So let's just stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
91.5% of the 20.5 million, football and men's basketball.
Football and hoops.
Women's basketball, 410,000.
Lady Raiders.
They get their 2%. Baseball, 390,000. They get their 1.9%.
Okay.
All other sports combined, 920,000.
Damn. He's laying it out.
I think it's fascinating that we're transparent with that.
Yep. And knowing that school and kind of what they've been in certain sports, like the layout makes sense to me. I don't know about the money itself. I wouldn't know all those particulars, but in terms of lay the sports out in an order, that's probably what I would tell you to do.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see, like, what does a school like Kansas do? What do like the real men's basketball powerhouses? I got to be honest, 3.6 million for men's basketball feels like a lot of money, and it should give everybody an idea of how expensive it is going to be in the future to compete at the highest levels in college basketball.
Oh God, basketball might be. I mean, we always say there's a dirty layer there that doesn't exist in football. Boy, when that dirty layer includes all this extra money, man.
I mean, Tech is letting us know they got 3.6 to spend in basketball at a minimum. That's without any collective money on top of it.
The other question I'll keep having, Catch, is once they finalize this thing, we need to hear the parameters of, let's take these two schools in Texas you're talking about today. For Texas, the revenue that's generated, how does that translate to what they're actually allowed to spend? Is it truly $20 million every year, or will it continue to go up? Will they have kind of a cap? And then let's say Texas finds out they could spend 24. Can Tech also spend 24 in that same time period?
All the same for each school. I don't know if it's going to increase or whatever. Okay. I know that initially it's going to be 20.5 for everybody.
Okay. Because I keep reading about it is determined by the school's revenue creation. And if that's true, then Texas and A&M and other schools will just have more ability than other schools will.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I just keep hearing the 20.5.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Okay. And then the other thing I guess I would ask about Hocutt. Did Hocutt just throw this out for his own entertainment? Was he asked this question directly, or did he just decide, I'm going to tell y'all what I'm thinking?
That's exactly what he decided.
Wow.
He just said, you know what? Let's talk. I'm bored. Let me tell you what we're going to do.
That is transparency, man. That's like 3 months into a marriage. The husband or wife just sits down. Let me give you my thoughts on cheating. Okay.
I think good on Kirby Hocutt though to be transparent, because I think that's incredibly informative for his fan base. And again, this is money the school will be responsible for. I can't stress enough when people are like, what's up with Texas Tech? They didn't have the football department have the ability to spend $15.1 million of its own money on talent, in addition to whatever it can add on top with a collective. So, when I tell people that college football is flush with money, let's just think of it like this. It's possible. I think there are probably 10 or 15 schools that were above $12 million this year from how much they spent. Like it goes Texas and Oklahoma State, and then you get down to like the 17 and the 15 million pretty quickly. Well, now all of these schools are going to be spending 15 million. But let's say, that's, if we just said 15 times, we said 50 schools suddenly had an extra 10 million. Well, no, because this is all money coming straight from the school. So if we did 60 schools, hold on, let me get out a calculator here. Why can't I find? I'm so sick. We need to end the show fairly soon. But
you got the flu and you're trying to do math. That's really on you at this point. Come on now.
That's like $60 million, though.
Yeah.
In the ecosystem right now that didn't exist a year ago. That, by the way, I don't know why I couldn't just multiply 60 times 10 million in my head. God. I'm so embarrassed. Let me break out the calculator. It's going to show me something that I otherwise couldn't figure out in my head. But that's an obscene amount of money available to the talent pool that was not available a year ago. So you can Tech, Louisville, Indiana, Michigan State, all of these schools had the same dynamic in play. They were struggling to compete, and now they've got money that they can spend. And these schools will have to carve that money out. It will be as important as anything they do. And if a school's like, well, we couldn't do it because we were up against it from our budget. We made $80 million last year and we spent $80 million. We ain't got no money for the players. Okay. Let me tell you something. Better find it.
Yeah.
Better find it. Otherwise, your program is dead. Well, if your program has the ability, your athletic department program anywhere in America, and Oregon State's a good example of this. If it's like, well, we just don't have the money to do it, well, then your ass needs to go play at a lower level of classification because there's a new game in town. And you know what's funny? A decade ago, maybe a little bit less than a decade ago, I was an advocate for creating a system where pay for play would exist. And I'd have to go back and look at the column that I wrote, but I basically said it's a $20 million a year. The number's funny because of how precise it ended up almost being. I was like, $20 million a year you have to dedicate to, I didn't call it revenue sharing, but just paying players, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and if you can't get in, you don't get to be in. You don't get to collect all the TV checks and suck on the woman parts. See, when I'm sick, I don't say the words and stuff. I'm fading fast, but still didn't say.
Still under control.
Yeah,
very nice. Good job.
But in the end, that's the money. It's a club now. If you can pay the money, you can be in. If you're like, oh, but our budgets, well, then you need to probably fire some of that. You need to trim some of the fat off of your staff. You need to maybe don't pay your assistant athletic director $800,000. Like maybe that person needs to make a little bit less money. Maybe that person doesn't need 5 people working underneath them. Like some schools have got to figure it out. It reminds me of when Texas hired Steve Patterson. Why did they hire him? Because he brought the feel goods? No. They hired Steve Patterson because when they interviewed him, they said, hey, man, we probably need to lose 100 jobs from our staff. Are you comfortable with that? And Steve said, hold on a sec. He reached into his bag. He pulled out a bloody ass hatchet. This is my hatchet. I don't even clean it. I will hatchet this shit out of people.
This is my 6% blended hatchet.
Yes. And what happened? A whole bunch of people got hatcheted. We may have to see that in college athletics to a certain degree. But the dirty little secret in college athletics is that schools have gone out of their way for years and years and years to spend every dime that comes in by any means necessary, so that at the end of the year, there's no money available. We can't pay the players. We made 70, but we spent 69. What are we supposed to do? That's always been the grift.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, if we make so much money, people are going to think that the player should get some. So you know what we got to do? Spend all of it. If we spend all of it, what do you want us to do? Invent the money out of thin air? Well, now, yes. Now that money's going to be in the budget one way or the other, and there'll probably have to be some hard costs. And look, some schools will be like, well, I guess we have to cut sports. You know why? Because God forbid they have less staff. I mean, God forbid the staff not make cash hand over fist way beyond what they should be making. The people that run college athletics have been getting paid for so long that they've convinced the masses that they're poor. But that ain't gonna fly anymore.
One more super chat to grab here. $9.99 from JR. We have come a long way. Remember the big announcement in 2022 that every O lineman would get $50,000? Great show, gentlemen. Things are changing by the minute in college athletics. All right, Catch. Anything else we need to hit before buy or sell? No. You want to go first or second?
You ask your questions and we'll see what I have left.
We'll see what we got. All right, let's start with some prize pick for you. Buy or sell number 1, prize pick for Gunnar Helm. 4.5 catches, 41.5 receiving yards. You say more on both.
Buy, but I like the yards more than I like the catches. 5 catches, sometimes I like I would stay away from the catches, even though I am buying, and I would play the yards.
Okay. Speaking of stay away, how about this one? Buy or sell number 2. If you were the AD at Norfolk State, you'd stay away from Michael Vick.
Sell.
Okay.
I got no problem with it.
Gotcha. I'm interested from the coaching standpoint too. I'm interested what was it about Michael Vick that convinced Norfolk State he can be the head?
It sounds like he'd been getting some looks from a number of I saw online yesterday that Sacramento State had been kicking around the eye, and he decided to go HBCU and take less money because that's where he preferred to be.
All he's done, Catch, is he was an analyst for an AAF team for 1 season. That's it.
Yeah, what did Deion Sanders done?
Yeah, right. And then that's fair. It's fair. I mean, I'm interested to see if that's going to work. But reportedly, Michael Vick has told folks that he is going to accept that job at Norfolk State, not far from his hometown. Buy or sell number 3, Catch. You can tell me who won the NBA Cup last night.
Buy. It was the Bucks. They beat the Thunder.
Yeah, there you go. Well done. Well done. Congrats to the Greek Freak and Dame and the.
You know what's funny about that? The only reason why I know that.
Yes.
Is I think it was it might have been Stephen A, but it was some big sports celebrity media guy
Mm-hmm.
went on the record yesterday and said that the Thunder were going to annihilate the Bucks.
Oh, I see.
And I knew nothing about. I didn't even know the game was getting ready to take place, but I saw that tweet, and at the exact same time I saw that tweet, I saw the score of the game, and I was like, "Ooh, missed it by just a little bit." I've been there, brother. I know what it feels like.
Yeah,
I
because they
said
beat
in 2006 that Texas was going to beat A&M by 35 points.
Because they beat them by like 17, didn't they?
Yeah, no, it was an ass kicking, but not in the way that I can't remember who it was, but that's how I knew what happened.
That is funny. All right, Catch, we'll round out with a couple of birthdays. Buy or sell number 4, get ready to feel old. Stone Cold is 60 today. As time goes by, he becomes more and more the GOAT.
Sell. No.
Okay.
I don't think he's the GOAT.
Fair enough. Happy birthday to Stone Cold from Victoria today. 60. That ain't right. Finally, Catch, buy or sell number 5. Keith Richards, Christina Aguilera, and Billie Eilish share a birthday today. If all 3 tours hit your town tonight, you'd see Christina over Billie or the Stones.
What are we doing? Come on.
What? I'm asking a question.
Oh, am I getting 97-year-old Keith Richards, or am I just getting this? Like, is this prime on prime?
No. They're hitting your town tonight.
Oh, man.
That's why you're having to decide. It's these Stones, it's that Billie Eilish, and it's this particular Christina
I'm still going to
Aguilera.
pick the Stones.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm still going to, no offense to Billie or Christina, but I think they also would make the same decision. And as long as the Stones can still, there will be a day when there'll never be another live Stone show.
Mm-hmm.
One day that will be the case. Plus, right. I was at the infamous Stone show in 2006 in Austin, and my wife ruined the experience.
Yeah, you've told me that story. It is not a pleasant one.
Oh, my wife doesn't even work now. But back then, I got a new job. I'm starting tomorrow, and it's really important that I get a good night's sleep. Is it? I still married you. You don't work. In retrospect, we should have stayed and like really done the concert up. Not that I hold it against her.
No, they made a DVD out of that one. I own that concert on DVD. It was so important. It's a shame. It's a shame.
What? To my wife.
Happy birthday to Keith today. 81, if y'all are wondering. All right, that's my buy or sell, Catch. Did I inspire you at all?
I had one question already in mind. Buy or sell number 1. There will be players on Michael Vick's new team that have no idea how good of a football player he was.
Oh, yeah, that's got to be a buy. I mean, to play that math, there's a lot of guys on a football team, and there could be guys that think they know and they still won't know. So I'm going to absolutely buy. He is at his absolute best. He's still the greatest overall weapon I think I've ever seen play football at the pro level.
Well, I think as a college player, he's the only guy that I will put in the same breath with VY.
Yeah, and that's fair too. That's absolutely fair. And because he took it to another level in the pros, I'll give him that love over VY. But you're absolutely right. And Lamar Jackson every once in a while kind of makes me think of Vic. But man, Vic was something special. But yeah, there's some of those kids that they won't get it. They won't understand.
Buy or sell number 2. ESPN put out a ranking of the top 50 players in the playoff. 4 Longhorns made the list. Okay. Quinn Ewers did not. And you think that is a travesty.
Travesty's a heavy word, but as long as you make it lowercase, I'll say buy. I'm assuming if you're going 50 players, the quarterback on the 5 seed should probably be among your 50 players. So, yeah, I'll buy.
Buy or sell. What's that?
Minor travesty. Yeah.
Buy or sell number 3. Colin Simmons also didn't make that list, and that is a real travesty.
Buy. Now that's capital T. That is a capital T travesty. I don't understand that one. Your eyeballs need to tell you that he needs to be somewhere in your 50. And Quinn Ewers, in fact, would say, you know what? Forget my spot. Give 11 that spot. He needs to be in there.
Do you want to know the Longhorns that made the list?
Sure. I'm gonna assume like Banks and Barron, and tell me the other two.
Makuba's at 24.
Okay.
Anthony Hill's number 9.
Wow. And then I got
Texas
the other
had 3 players in the top 9.
3 in the top 9's good.
And we'll keep the theme going. Buy or sell number 4 on this same list. Cade Klubnik ranked 25th. Not a travesty. That's about where he should be.
25th out of
26th, technically.
26th, yeah.
By the way, that dude threw 33 touchdowns and had only 5 interceptions this year.
Yeah, they've had such a strange year. There's a lot of stuff that looks really good, and then but then the feel of that team is a little different. I'll say that's about what it should be, because he hasn't had massive stages and stepped up on the massive stages, so that probably does kick him towards the middle of that list.
Let me just read you his numbers, though.
Okay.
And then tomorrow we got to start talking about this goddamn game.
Okay.
Klubnik rushed for 458 yards and 7 touchdowns this season to go with 3,300 yards passing. His 33 touchdown passes ranked 3rd nationally. His 6.6 touchdown to interception ratio was the best in FBS, and his 78.9 total QBR ranks 3rd among playoff quarterbacks. Buy or sell number 5. Are we sleeping on Clemson and Cade Klubnik and what Clemson might be able to do this weekend?
Okay, buy or sell.
We are.
Make that a we
are. We are sleeping on Clemson and Cade Klubnik.
I mean, everybody's got their own different thoughts on the game. I would say that's a baby buy, but I think everybody that I've heard talking about Clemson and maybe what they can't do, they're counteracting it with the Texas defense.
Yeah.
And the discussion is that he has not faced a defense like this. Look at who they have played and not played. They didn't have to deal with Miami this year. They didn't have to deal with SMU in the regular season. There's other games. I don't think they had to play Notre Dame this year. So all that I think is realistic. But yeah, some people probably are. Some people may be throwing it away a little bit, because if they can protect Cade, they've got weapons that can hurt Texas a little bit. I think the notion is that Texas will be able to deal with that O-line.
He is by a country mile the best quarterback that Texas will have played this season.
Yeah. I'm trying to think I'm just going through
who list. Are we saying is the best quarterback?
Right. I mean, there's so much just rawness and that, there's some raw talent, but it's raw. Yeah, Cade's definitely the best. I don't even know, who's second? Pavia?
I think so.
Or is it if they'd played Lagway?
They didn't.
They didn't.
Right?
I mean, it's not Pavia Reed, is it? I mean, technically.
That's why I said a country mile.
I mean, based on talent and what they're supposed to be, it would be Jackson Arnold, but they didn't play him, did they?
No.
Right? He didn't play in that game.
And
no, it's Cade by a distance. If you get the best out of Pavia and the best out of Marcel Reed and the best out of all Taylon Green and all those guys,
Carson Beck is probably. I can't say that Carson Beck is good.
He certainly didn't put the good out there against Texas either time. There's no doubt. No.
All right, please wrap up the show, Chad. I'm done.
All right. Thank you all for liking and subscribing and getting those notifications. Let's get you the reminder one more time about Texas Card House. First off, the Hijack Poker app. Ketch talked about it earlier. This is for everybody in the state of Texas. Go to hijackpoker.com. Get the app. You can put it on any device you want and use OB20 as your code. You'll get $20 of free play. And remember to come see us at TCH Social Austin for Texas and Clemson. $1 draft and $2 jellyfish starts at 2:00. and that runs all the way through an hour after the game. Those incredible drink specials, plus all the incredible food will be there. Come try the Bad Beat Bacon. We'll have the NFL games on, the high school games on, FCS. We'll have it all on those big screens. It is a great place to come watch a game. So come out and see us. Football with Friends tonight at 6. We'll hit you with the Outsiders at 8:30. We'll make our official picks on Texas Clemson and the other playoff games. Old Fashioned with Anwar in the morning at 9. And at 10, it is the Prize Picks show. Do what I do every Thursday. Listen to the guys. Formulate your prize picks. Try to make a little money. I actually did hit a couple prize picks last week, thanks to the fellas. So I'm going to check them out again tomorrow at 10. You do too. Thank you all for your support. Thanks to over almost 1,200 folks right now in the Specs chat. We do appreciate you. Thanks to Specs and all of our great partners. And thanks to Jeff Ketchum for gutting it out today. One more day with the flu. Hopefully the flu will exit his body and he'll be even more fired up tomorrow. It's a Thursday show tomorrow at noon. I'll reach out to Brian Jones and see if he wants to talk to us, but he is in the Dominican Republic with a woman. So I don't even know if he's going to recognize my text.